really, I mean, it might be like 85% of the stores the storefronts are gone. I've never seen it so desolate. But like I said, this is not necessarily reflective of the other shopping malls or shopping areas in the area or any other place. I think this is for some reason this is unique to this place. Also, just this whole thing about like it being, this sort of like there it is, luxury. It's like a luxury mall, so it's really unusual. They've probably held out also, like, they're like, well, we don't want to just reduce our rent on these storefronts. We have to keep them at a certain level. There's a lot of business reasons for this kind of stuff. So who knows? A year from now, it could look like it could be a totally different situation. But okay, skill. Let's get into the skill. The skill, I think at the root of skill, what we really have is it's really about the individual and the equipment. So you're going to get, and that is complementary. It works together with Skill Toys, because Skill Toys doesn't, it doesn't say anything about whether it's one person or two person, whether it's competitive or not. The idea of Skill Toy is basically that it's some sort of equipment, object, toy that is designed a certain way and is going to be used in that way. Like that's like a yo-yo. It's got a string, it spins. That's what it's designed for. So the skill, when you talk about Skill Toys, that's not going to like rule out any sort of, this thing with, that skill is ultimately a sort of like one person's interaction with that object. So this is kind of like what I've understood and what I'm sort of like advancing is, and it's not just me. It's sort of coming out of the culture, really like flow culture, but also other like our other types of cultures like surrounding these adjacent cultures. But the basic concept is that there's two main things, and this can go into like skill philosophy or at the root of skill. The two things are that every toy, every object, every piece of gear, prop that you're using, that every one of those has sort of like unique physical properties, and those physical properties are
all the teenagers.
Those physical properties present limitations to in and of themselves. So it's kind of like, in a way, saying or talking about like when you do origami and you make a fold. Well, it's like that fold creates like opportunity and limitation in the next fold that you're going to make. So there's that kind of thing sort of in the way of other kinds of, in a way of like, working with props and working with juggling, working with skill, toys, etc. It's like the object in and of itself has its own properties, and that's going to sort of guide you when you're working with that. And then the other part of it, so that's the first part. The second part is like the limitations or the experience, the growing experience of the skiller, or the juggler, or the flow artist, or the spinner, or whoever, whatever kind of terminology you want to use for the person who is interacting with the equipment. So those are like the two main things to put all together into skill. So like when you're talking about the root of skill, to me, this is what seems to be the roots of skill, is these basic two things: the properties of the equipment, and then also the skill or the dexterity of the person who's using it, and the growth and the potential for growth, and learning that equipment. So that's those are like the two main things at the root of skill. So I guess it's sort of important. It's sort of important to me anyway to clarify this, because we're at a point here where in the development of skill culture, where there can be, I feel like, a little bit of, I feel like it could go off in a bunch of different directions. And I guess what I'm concerned with here, and especially in regards to what's going on with like skill space, that we're kind of identifying the roots of skill, so that we can build like a solid foundation going forward as this develops. Because right now what we're really seeing is basically the convergence of all these different types of skills, slack line, acro yoga, flow arts, juggling. At the same time, we're also seeing juggling is like really taken off in a number of ways, and in particular with the WJF now on ESPN2, having basically the debuting the broadcast of, or a debuting tape, the re-editing tape of the EJC 2025 WJF, which is WJF 22. So we are like at this, like we're in an interesting point. Like things are developing, and we are kind of getting into a new era, or a new, it might even be new. It's like new territory possibly. Like we haven't been here before. So we're sort of we're growing. Like the whole idea is growing. And things are being redefined. Like juggling, which was always sort of seen as a sort of primarily as something, as a skill for entertainment, is now, especially with the WJF, like it's now being sort of repositioned as a competitive activity. And my impression of the WJF recently, of that most recent one when I watched it, WJF 22, that it really has developed into a, like, in of itself, it is it's becoming like a viable, almost like game that it wasn't before. The idea of saying like, I'm going to do these specific moves. I'm going to so the judges are looking for that. The person can get more points by doing the moves to, at certain points in the music to accompany the music. There's that. Then there's drop. How many drops does a person do? So like it is the game of juggling is growing beyond the idea of like, well, how many balls can you do? How many catches can you get? How long can it go? These types of things. So that's, and this is also being now presented, to the general public. So this is going to alter how the general public sees juggling. And what we've also known is that the skill level, and I've talked about this before in other videos, the super long one over in, what skate park was that? Well, it was one of them way back. It was at the park that had two parks. Anyway, basically the idea that, and the fact that how much like juggling has, how much the amount of skill has increased in the last like 20 years. A lot due to YouTube, a lot due to maybe accessibility, building on foundations from the past, even more so. I mean, skill had already been improving in the 80s and 90s, and then it really sort of kicked off more in like the 2000s, 2010s, etc. So anyway, the overall theme is that the culture is changing. It's no longer seen just as entertainment. It's now potentially a competitive thing. And then when you bring in the flow arts community, which has been making a big presence in the IJA, when you bring in the flow arts and the flow sort of philosophy, which is really more of what I'm talking about here. That's the this is the idea of those 2 pointers, that at the root of skill is the properties of the object and the skill, the dexterity of the person who is doing it, and that is, I guess the third thing that comes out of it is that at the root of skill, it is like a one-person thing. Just like how like juggling is, at the root of juggling, it's really like one person. You can juggle with other people. You can perform 2 other people or 4 other people. But juggling can occur at its root with one person, like on their own. So these are things that are really important to keep in mind, like as this stuff develops, as skill develops. And yeah, so that game where you're using your head to play ping pong with a volleyball or some sort of large ball, yeah, that probably is a 2-person activity